everyone, and welcome back. This is SC Coleman, author, and in this video we're going to start by talking about a company called Wolters, Kluwer, NV. NV stands for the Netherlands. I don't know why the V is there. And this is a stock portfolio, as you can see, and as well I have clearly moved locations again. Now this states that the majority of revenue is derived from digital expert solution and the remainder via print publishing. So in the majority, this company is allegedly for publishing digitally and, as it says, in print. So you can think of them as a publisher of essentially everything. So this states that it went from 5.58 billion to 5.92 billion, a year-on-year growth revenue of 5.95%, allegedly reduced from the cost of goods sold. I think we can all assume and be correct in divining what that means. Now, as far as the institutional shareholders go, apparently only 0.05% of shares are held by the top holders, which is not normal. And of those top holders are listed Domini Impact Investments LLC and, of course, BlackRock Investment Management UK Ltd. What a shocker. And then the other names on there are, as you would expect. Now this filing the company is from the UK or United Kingdom Companies House from the 24th of November 1995. Interestingly, the signature does not list an actual name, but rather just a squiggle, which could be anything. And this is the changing of the name of Graham and Trotman Limited to Kluwer Law International Limited. We're going to find out exactly why Kluwer Law, rather than, it is Wolters Kluwer, but they don't list the name Wolters, just Kluwer. You'll find out why they are so important. Now the accounting filings, or the asset statement, balance sheet, whatever you want to call it, from the 31st of January 1986 for the Graham and Trotman Limited and its subsidiary, it's got some pretty interesting information on it. First of all, the principal activity of the company is listed as book publishing. And that it showed a loss of £327,172 after taxation. Now, what we would normally think of as a loss, that would sound like a big one. However, as many in the business sector know, the so-called loss on balance sheets is usually just a way to avoid paying taxes. Turnover was £1,235,231, and again, these are pounds sterling and silver from 1986. Unlikely that they're using the current form of pounds sterling, which is nothing short of the fictitious US dollar nonsense. On the 31st of January 1986, the entire issued share capital of the company is acquired by Kluwer, a company registered in the Netherlands. And as you can see here, the majority of people listed do not have a first or middle name listed, just the last name and then initials. It was a common thing, but it's also common usage for hiding. And again, a squiggle as a signature and no name. Only two names listed here of AMW Graham and ILJ Pulley have 28,000 and 7,000 shares respectively. And then to the members of Graham and Trotman Limited and subsidiary, Clark and Whitehall Chartered Accountants is listed as the signature. Now, I don't know about you, but generally speaking, it is not considered possible for a company to sign for itself. Usually a company needs a signatory, and anybody could have signed that, obviously. It's just a bunch of nonsense. And these statements are from the 10 months to 31st of January 1986 and 12 months to 31st of March 1985. I've highlighted all the important numbers of note here. You've got the share of profits of related company going from a positive 23,000 to a negative of 268,753 pounds sterling. Operating loss profit, you have going from 1985 to 1986, a positive 24,384 to a negative of 267,753, less interest payable and similar charges, going from 27,679 to 59,419. Loss on ordinary activities before taxation, you have a starting negative of 3,295, going to a negative of 327,172. Now, as far as the fixed assets under tangible assets section, you have 55,440 going to 105,681. I think it's pretty obvious what they did there. Then you have a secured bank overdraft of 237,264 going to 434,758. So obviously there's some really suspicious activity on these balance sheets. Next, under funds applied to operators, loss in ordinary activities before taxation, adjustments for items not involving funds movement, depreciation, share of profits of related company, profit on sale of tangible fixed assets. Oh, those are different sections. So for the funds applied to operations, loss in ordinary activities before taxation, you have a deficit of 3,295, which then goes to 327,172. So that's a drastic difference there. Then you have the bank overdraft increase or decrease in net liquid funds, going from a negative of 283,772 to a negative of 197,494, and also positive for bank and cash balances of 9,934 going to a negative of 12,243. And now these notes here, the results. The accounts have been prepared under the Historical Cost Convention and include the results of a subsidiary, Graham and Trotman Incorporated, a United States company. Under fixed assets, it lists depreciation is provided on all tangible fixed assets at rates calculated to write off the cost less estimated residue value of each asset over its expected useful life. Motor vehicle, 25% on written down value. Leasehold, 10% on cost. Computer equipment, 20% on cost. Other office equipment and fixtures, 50% on written down. And of course, as we know, this is how they induce depreciation across the board. They have these standards that value things at a depreciated level, and that's how depreciation happens. It is entirely and absolutely arbitrarily done by accountants. And then these documents, as we know, can all be taken to the bank and to other things as far as valuation, and they invent money out of thin air, and that's how the system works, at least as far as depreciation goes. Foreign currencies. Transaction in foreign currencies are translated into sterling at the rate of exchange ruling at the date of the transaction. Exchange differences arising in the ordinary course of business are included in trading profit. And now something that's important to note is that pound sterling was traded as true silver for a certain amount of time until recently, when they changed it to mean only the currency traded and there's no actual value of resource. Daddy. And then it also lists in a related company that the company owns 50% of the ordinary share capital of Arabian Information Limited. Daddy. Under geographical analysis, it lists only United Kingdom, USA, Middle East, and rest of the world. And there, it has a value of, from 1985 to 1986, of 1,424,945 to 1,235,231. And then you have staff costs Wages and salaries and social security costs and other pension costs goes from 241,831 to 253,259. And then the number of employees goes from 26 to 31. Those are some pretty interesting numbers there. No taxation is payable in view of the losses incurred during the period. And potential liability of 14,626 is covered by corporate tax losses carried forward. So as I said, those losses, of course, are a very well-known tactic used to keep from paying taxes like everybody else. And essentially speaking, these are also types of people anyway, involved in the system that even run the phony taxation system to begin with. And next, with stocks, we have work in progress, finished goods, and goods for resale. Remember, this is a alleged publishing company. And the numbers there from 1985 to 1986 under the company is 528,237 to 669,507. And then in the group, it's 553,000 to 889, and then 671,149. And then we've got the listing of the company Graham and Trotman Incorporated, a related company, which again is US based. And they have a staggering difference of a positive 5,939 to 321,233 in the negative. So, continuing with the theme of Wolters Kluwer, we have the Wolters Kluwer. What was that company that I listed before where the name changed? It was to Kluwer Law International Limited, or Kluwer, considering it's Dutch. The Kluwer Law International Limited publishes Maritime Law Handbook Author Guide, in which it lists the arrest of vessels, enforced sale of vessels, registration of vessels, and mortgage on vessels. It is for a reader looking for quick information on an issue, and done under the auspices, meaning office, of Maritime and Transport Law Committee for the Legal Practice Division of the IBA. In case the complete manuscript is written by an American author, U.S. spelling may also be used. Authors are advised to have their text checked by a native speaker before submitting it. These are all rather interesting implications that are being listed out here. The International Labor and Employment Compliance Handbook Author Guide. The handbook promises to be the preeminent, indispensable source of information on labor and employment laws worldwide. Each country chapter is based on a standard outline, step-by-step compliant measures with mandatory standards and procedures and record-keeping requirements, applicable fines and penalties. Business executives, human resources professionals, as well as corporate counsel and business lawyers are the intended audience for that publication. Then we have the enforcement of foreign judgments. Interesting title there. Open border politics. The attempt to enforce foreign judgments can prove costly and time-consuming. Having this crucial information on hand with research to a particular country's requirements without the need to search numerous separate sources. Don't you like those particular notes on that information? Next, we have Kluwer Law International Author Guidelines for IELS, listing a Miss Margot Layson, General Editor's Office, University of Leuven. So, shocker, there's a university behind this type of criminal international conspiracy, which is essentially treason in just about every single country on the planet. And copyright 2024, Kluwer Law International, BV, the Netherlands. It is the world's leading international, or this publication, the International Encyclopedia of Laws, is the world's leading, works with some of the world's leading international organizations as authors. Its aim is to respond to the growing need for the harmonization of legal standards. So yes, they are essentially speaking writing law. Law which then local club members, basically being those members of the bar and whatnot, will be carrying out this nonsense, and of course, naturally, all of it revolves around the university mechanisms.
Mom.
Editorial tool lists publish one with an option to work offline. And it provides a detailed analysis of relevant legislation. So another way of saying that is that they write legislation. Title page, the monograph is up to date as of month, year will be a listing there. Under the author, photos that you copy from the internet are unacceptable because the resolution is too low for print. And that's for a author photo. So the implication there is that author photos will be taken from the internet, because, of course, you can change the resolution on photos using a photo editor, as everybody knows that. Interestingly, for the list of abbreviations, only EU and US are listed as European Union and United States, with the obvious implication that those are the only countries for which this publication is intended. Next, you have the average monograph length will be between 100 and 250 pages with 400 words per page. And again, lists the general editor. The monograph is for the international audience, but it should be in English. Only in English. So I don't believe that that is the international audience, but I think we know what they mean by that. Contribution of individual authors is only one element of a whole set. And it lists the KLI House Style Guide, which to me sounds very similar to KDP, which is the Amazon version. One wonders where the K comes from. I'm sure it might have something to do with Kluwer. Footnotes. It is the author's responsibility to make sure all footnotes cross-references are correct. So because it's up to the author, these people can then edit things with incorrect footnotes, and then they would say, oh, well, it's the author's fault, because that's what's listed here. Citations, the author is responsible for the content and correct format of all citations in the manuscript. So again, they can push the blame to the author when they do something in that author's name. We've seen these tricks happen so many times in so many different aspects. It's nothing new. The author receives 1 year to write a new monograph. After 3 unanswered reminders, the editor will look for a new author. The manuscripts must be submitted in electronic format. I wonder why they'd want that. And the document list, or the file name, should be series title _ manuscript title civil procedure _ Germany.doc. That's interesting. Volume editors will deal with general content, while copy editors will look for compliance with house style. Neither will be doing a line-by-line edit. This lists the IEL Secretariat. Signed contract on file must be had before submission of the manuscript. Under copyright, the copyright for your monograph will establish in the name of Kluwer Law International. So here again, they're stealing the work of others. And that submission of a manuscript implies that the copyright will move from the author to the publisher. Pretty interesting. Form submission to publication should not be have been accepted under consideration for publication elsewhere. So again, they want you to only publish with them. And this says that the contract will be done through Adobe Sign. Texts in other languages will not be translated or published by the publisher. A legal editing vendor will be used for, well, if your manuscript is accepted, it will be sent to KLI for review. KLI will send your manuscript to a legal editing vendor. One wonders what that means. And then this states at the appointed time the vendor New Gen will send the final copy edited Word file back to the author in the Publish One tool. So they want to retain control over other people's work. Manuscript editor will assume that proof has been accepted and will proceed with the publication process. Only the copy-edited Word filed and published one can be used to insert corrections. KLI reserves the right not to make all the changes the author requests if the corrections are deemed unsubstantial. Yeah, I wonder, deemed unsubstantial, I think we know what that means. Manuscript editor will contact you if several corrections are rejected. Updating your monograph. Serial editor or IEL secretariat, author should notify the series editor or IEL secretariat at iel@kuleuven.be. I believe that's the university email address. That the monograph is still up to date once every month. Isn't that weird? And for each update, they will pay €100. The system will send automatic reminders of a yearly update. So that's a little bit strange there. And then there's a form for software patents. Software patents worldwide. Aim of the publication, Software Patents Worldwide is the only resource. Answer questions such as, what is the proper procedure for obtaining a software patent? And how do we enforce our patents? And this lists an Anya Kramer at wolterskluwer.com. We're going to find that name's on many of these. Manual for the handling of applications for patents, design, and trademarks throughout the world, the Brown Book. International Industrial Property Practice. The online version includes smart charts, trademark, and this lists Anya Kramer and also a Nikki von de Beek, both at Wolters Kluwer, or Wolters Kluwer. Global patent litigation. Each chapter describes how a patentee can enforce the patent. The main features include broad international coverage. Anya Kramer, Wolters Kluwer. I think we get the idea of what they're doing here. Manuscript checklist. Before final manuscript, this checklist should be checked before a final manuscript to an acquisition manager. What an interesting name to put there. Acquisition Manager AM. The Wolters Kluwer Author Portal. And it will be done in MS Word. All formatting will be changed to house style by our compositor. Citations will follow the ALWD style. Do not manually create footnotes. Image material that has been downloaded from the internet generally is not accepted due to low resolution. So, of course, they want you to change the resolution on images that you download from the internet. Or they download, because they could be doing all of this stuff and pretending like somebody else is doing it. Copyright holder can either be the author or the publisher of a work, a society, a museum, a family, trust, or foundation. The author is reproducing his or her own work, does not hold copyright, permission must be obtained. And I know exactly why they put that nonsense in there. And then this lists index keywords and content to publish CTP forms, and then the deadline. Now this is from the Company Houses of UK, the notice of a change of a company name from Kluwer Tech Limited, and this is done by Wolters Kluwer UK Limited. And the name is of Kluwer Tech Limited is changed to 155-65192 Limited. That's a very strange company name. Dated the 05 March 2025 by Helen Cooper, and I don't know if you can see that, but the signature there does not look like a normal signature. Now this, dated 28th of March 2025 by again Helen Cooper, is the changing of the name Kluwer IT Limited, done by Wolters Kluwer UK Limited, to 1555-2481 Limited. Very strange. Now this filing lists a Nuokena. It's a hard name to say there. Change of company name. Kluwer Tech Solutions Limited is changed to 155,65180 Limited. Again by Wolters Kluwer UK Limited. And now this last name change is the Kluwer Academic Publishers BV, changed name to Wolters Kluwer Academic Publishers BV, and this is 28th of February 1995. This takes us to a court document, United States District Court for the Eastern District of New York. Case number 124-CV-6409, and this was filed on September 12th, 2024. It lists a Dr. Lucy Nauden antitrust class action against the world's 6 largest for-profit publishers of peer-reviewed scholarly journals. Wolters Kluwer N.V. is one of them. Now, you have to think first that earlier we looked at that document about Kluwer Law International Limited and the fact that it's coming from a university in Belgium. And so this court case is attempting to argue that the faculty of universities are being swindled by such corporations as Wolters Kluwer. It's possible, but at the same time, this appears to be more of the narcissistic, self-victimizing attempts to cash in on the social credit that is formed by these very abuses. So you would see a professor who attempts to state that they're being exploited for free labor and they're volunteering, while they in turn are exploiting a large student body and affixing their name to the work done by their students, and in turn their work has the name of the university affixed to it and their work taken as well. And so these narcissistic professors and whatnot, they attempt to cash in on the social credit of exploiting the student body by saying that they are the ones being exploited. And that's kind of what looks like is being published here. And of course, you also have to think about the fact that the Wolters Kluwer publishing apparatus controls the courts, and so this information could be being published by Wolters Kluwer via various different subsidiaries and sub-entities. Considering that Wolters Kluwer controls the Corporation Trust Company and the CT Corporation system, which are historically very impactful. Now, the defendants agreed not to compensate. They agreed to fix the price of peer review services at zero, coercing into the providing of labor for nothing by expressly linking unpaid labor with the ability to get manuscripts published. We've seen that scheme done over and over and over again. And mostly not to the professors and other academics which are linked into this system. I mean, sure, yeah, they're being exploited, but they're exploiting others and whatnot, and they get their turn, as it is. And then the careers are held hostage for the labor, for free labor. Non-compete agreements, and that they're only allowed to publish with one journal at a time. And that actually follows with what we read earlier about the fact that you're only allowed to publish with Kluwer Law International and you can't publish with anyone else. It ensures there's no viable alternative and that they can dictate the terms of publication. Yeah, that's called monopolizing. Agreed to prohibit from the freely sharing, and they behave as though the scientific advancements set forth in manuscripts are their property. Yeah, go figure. They require the signing away of all intellectual property rights in exchange for nothing, while they charge the maximum the market will bear. scheme has been remarkably profitable, but with tremendous damage to public interest. Most of the cost is picked up by taxpayers. State funds most of the research and then buys most of the published product. I think we know what that means. That is money laundering. And on behalf of foreign companies, no less. They exploit volunteer labor. Naturally, as the universities are well known for doing. Now, of one of these companies, Elsevier BV, principal place of business is listed at Radarweg 29 1043 NX Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Wolters Kluwer, of course, is in the Netherlands. Their principal place of business is listed at Zuidspulsingel 2 2408 ZE Alphen aan den Rijn, the Netherlands. Next, we have Taylor and Francis Group Ltd. Out of the United Kingdom at 4 Park Square, Milton Park, Abingdon, OX 144RN, United Kingdom. And then we have Springer Nature AG & Co. out of Berlin, Germany. And now, considering the fact that these entities are blatantly lying in most cases, you have to wonder if any of these are in fact real tangible companies and with foreign interests, or if they're just simply running yet another cover trying to obfuscate the truth. The STM, which is the International Association of Scientific, Technical, and Medical Publishers, is a Dutch stichting foundation located at Prince Wilhelm Alexanderhof 52595 BE, The Hague, Netherlands, and also with an office at Prama House 267 Banbury Road, Oxford, OX2 7H2, United Kingdom. Now, there are reasons for listing office addresses and things for practical purposes, but considering what these companies are doing and behind, there's no real reason for them to have a practical address except for obfuscation and paperwork purposes. But physical operations, I wonder if any of those things are true. And as you see on most of the business filings, the signatures are highly suspicious. So this takes us to some information, some linked documents with the CIA, recent publications of the so-called JFK filings. And in this trail, we will find that the backstories for a lot of apparent foreign influence that has been developing in the United States, the international cabal, if you will, has been done by the CIA. And the cover stories of individuals created which relate to what appear to be continuing business publications and other elements. So this starts with the Wackenhut Corporation, or Wackenhut Corporation, at 3280 Ponce de Leon Boulevard, Coral Gables, Florida. Mr. George Wackenhut, this is from the 14th of March, 1963, listing a Mr. Wes Reynolds, and there's a meeting at Mr. Reynolds' home, represents Wackenhut in the Washington area. I don't believe any of these people exist. Wackenhut started his firm in 1954, San Juan and Ponce, Puerto Rico. And notice, of course, that listing, Ponce de Leon Boulevard, Coral Gables, Florida. So that's interesting right there. Then we have this listing is seeking from CIA covert sponsorship, permit the integration of agency nominees. And now here's a business filing from January 26, 2005, Wackenhut's Homeland Security Incorporated, Delaware, January 27, 2004, listing Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, and it lists the purpose of security guard services, security alarm systems, and the monitoring and installation. Listing a Robert L. Kilbride at 4200 Wackenhut Drive, number 100, Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. Next, we have the Articles of Amendment to the Articles of Incorporation of Wackenhut Correction Design Services Incorporated. The name of the corporation is Geo Design Services Incorporated, so it's a name change. Listed at 1 Park Place, Suite 700, 621 Northwest 53rd Street, Boca Raton, Florida. With the John J. Bulfin, Vice President and Secretary, dated the 8th day of January 2004. Next, we have the amendment to the amended restated articles of the incorporations of Wackenhut Corrections Corporation, and the name of the corporation shall be the Geo Group Incorporated. So more name changing. This dated the 25th day of November 2003, coming from Ackerman Centerfit, and listing a George C. Zoli, Chief Executive Officer, again with the suspicious signatures. Next, we have the Security Services Corporation. The name of this corporation shall be the Wackenhut Corporation. So they changed the name of the Security Services Corporation to the Wackenhut Corporation. And this dated September 12, 1959, listing the purpose to contract for and provide uniform or ununiformed personnel, security plans, safety surveys, and systems for the safety, security, control, and protection of businesses, industrial, and governmental forms, corporations, and agencies. And this dated the 11th day of September 1959 with a Ruth J. Wackenhut, sole stockholders of Security Services Corporation, and E.J. Charters, John S. Amaral Jr. and G.R. Wackenhut, sole members of Board of Directors of Security Services Corporation. Now you have the Security Services Corp. Articles of Incorporation, providing guard and protective services at 811 Ainsley Building, Miami 32, Florida. Then you have listing of 220 Security Trust Building, Miami, Florida. And this is a Kansas filing for the Wackenhut Corporation, principal place of business 3280 Ponce de Leon Boulevard, Coral Gables, Florida 33134. So from that CIA document. And the Kansas address 307 number Lawn Avenue, Kansas City, Missouri. Registered office is 2216 West 49th Terrace, Westwood Hills, Kansas. Listing an Angelo Falcone with the purpose to contract for and provide any of the functions or services of a private investigator agency, uniformed or ununiformed personnel, management, consultation, advice, plans, surveys, and systems for the safety, security, control, protection, and efficiency of persons, businesses, industrial, and governmental firms and agencies. The Wackenhut Corporation officers and directors has a George R. Wackenhut at 7795 Southwest 122 Street, Miami, Florida. Lists a James Darbaker at 3955 Bigelow Boulevard, Pittsburgh 13, Pennsylvania. And then a Ralph E. Davis in Los Angeles, California. Lists a Washington, D.C. address for someone, Pebble Beach, California, East Claremont, California, Rockefeller Plaza, New York, Maryland, California, South Carolina. And then with the financial statements, with total of 2,822 or 2,822,803. Lists bonded indebtedness, encumbrance on real estate or plant, and there's no listing, no numbers for that. Due from banks, $500,000. It lists goodwill at $606,484. I wonder what goodwill is. Probably not the company. And then real estate, $527,307. So there's some interesting numbers there to note. Vackenhout Corrections Corporation changed its name to the Geo Group Incorporated on November 25, 2003. It was originally filed in the state of Florida on April 5, 1988. Vackenhout Corrections Corporation, this is from the state of Kansas, filed March 21st, 1997, with an address out of Topeka, listing the corporation services company with the design to operate and manage detention facilities, jails, and prisons. It's interesting what the Vackenhout Corporation, with the cover story from the CIA, of course, has been involved in. Vackenhout Corrections Corporation lists its address at Coral Gables, Vero Beach, Florida, Stillwater, Minnesota, Baltimore, Maryland, Austin, Texas, Washington, D.C., South Carolina, Jamestown, Rhode Island, Jupiter, Florida, with a Wayne H. Calabrese. So there's some interesting names there. There's a Carol M. Brown, Health Services Senior Vice President at Fort Lauderdale, Florida. James P. Rowan, Miami, Vice President, Secretary, General Counsel. And also with listing at Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. And then there's a Arthur A. Sinodi, listed at 3099 Hadding Place, Bronx, New York, the Assistant Treasurer. So obviously they were all over the place, and they've definitely proliferated a lot more since then. Now the assets unaudited from September 29, 1996 goes from December 31st, 1995 at $38,840 to September 29th, 1996, $99,308. Interestingly, there's this whole section which has blank, blacked out squares in various sections under the total without the amount. It's very odd. As you can see, this section lists the amount and over here lists the total, but you can't read them because it's been redacted. And then the signatures are from 1997, March 6th and February 28th. Vackenhout Services Incorporated changed its name to G4S Government Solutions Incorporated on August 9th, 2011, originally filed with the state of Florida on July 25th, 1960. Business name to be registered, and this is in Missouri, from the August 1st, 2010. Business name Vackenhout, 410 or 4200 Vackenhout Drive, Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. Name of owner's individual or business entity, G4 Secure Solutions USA Incorporated, with the same address, owning 100% shares. Isn't that interesting? Vackenhout Corrections Corporation changed its name to the Geo Group Incorporated. John J. Bulfin, Secretary and General Counsel, and this is from December 18th, 2003. Vackenhout Corrections Corporation, this is date of the incorporation, was April 5th, 1988, at 1500 San Romeo Avenue, Coral Gables, Florida, with the Corporation Service Company as the registered agent, doing business as the CSC Lawyers Incorporating Service Company, and lists to manage and develop privatized correctional and detention facilities. And this is interestingly signed January 11th, 1996. Now, the name of the entity or description of mark for a trademark registration in the state of Ohio for Vackenhout is the trademark name. Current owner G4S Secure Solutions USA Incorporated, with an interesting address of 1395 University Boulevard, Jupiter, Palm Beach, Florida. Whenever you see that, you know it's a university behind it. And as most of these documents are concerned, it's always a university doing it. Very odd, but also at the same time not surprising. They're attorneys, universities, it's all a mechanism involved together for international treason and domination. Now this document from Ohio is dated April 8th, 1996. The address of the Prentice Hall Corporation System Incorporated, the statutory agent for Vacanhoot Airline Services Incorporated, and listing the address at 16 East Broad Street, Columbus. That's an interesting address. Prentice Hall Corporation System, William G. Popeo, Vice President. Vacanhoot Airline Services Incorporated, September 22nd, 1989, 1500 San Romeo Avenue, Coral Gables, Florida. Prentice Hall Corporation System Incorporated, statutory agent. And this document lists the purpose to provide pre-departure screening services at designated airports. That's your TSA for you. Now we have the Vacanhoot Health Services, March 9th, 1990. Same address in Coral Gables. To provide health services to the incarcerated through an integrated health system at each contracted facility. That's the reason why you have so much MK Ultra coming out of quote-unquote detention facilities. This is, again, all a CIA operation. Vacanhoot Homeland Security Incorporated, formed out of Delaware. This is filed February 9th, 2011, with an address listed at 1395 University Boulevard, Jupiter, Florida. University. Vacanhoot Monitoring Systems, 1500 San Romeo Avenue, Coral Gables, Florida. And this states the corporation principal office within Ohio is none. And this is filed, or the corporation was incorporated on 28th of February 1991, listing the Prentice Hall Corporation System Incorporated, 380 South 5th Street, Columbus, Ohio. And this stipulates electronic monitoring of probationers for state and local governments. Now this document from the 2nd of February 1981, Vacanhoot Support Services Incorporated, listed at 3280 Ponce de Leon Boulevard, Coral Gables, Florida, and that in Ohio the principal office is located at the Union Commerce Building, Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, and again lists the Prentice Hall Corporation System. This stipulates it's for strike security services and other related endeavors. One wonders what exactly that means. And the Prentice Hall Legal and Financial Services, listed in Atlanta, Georgia. Now this brings us to a different CIA cover document from the 10th of August 1964, which lists the ostensible lessee of this apartment as a local Arlington attorney, Roger McKee Shea, that's SHEA, Sierra Hotel Echo Alpha, Esquire, providing quarters for out-of-town clients. I don't believe any of these people actually exist. No Pablo Rodriguez is listed in the New York telephone directory, and the address is obviously an incorrect one, as street numbers in Manhattan do not go as high as this number. So that's listing some phony crap. So, what's important to notice here as we will see in the various patterns and whatnot, is this individual Roger Shea, Esquire, and of course, not only the date, but the fact that they're providing quarters for out-of-town clients and some other interesting information. So this filing, RMS B Ridge Incorporated from August 26, 1999, lists an address at 8830 South Tamiami Trail, Suite 110, Sarasota, Florida, 34238. And this filing lists a Wayne Rasmussen at 8830 South Tamami Trail, Sarasota, Florida, and a Roger Shea, MD, 5741 B Ridge Road, Sarasota, Florida. Also an Andrew Marlowe, MD, and a John J. Shea, Jr., at 630 South Orange Avenue, Sarasota, Florida. Prepared by John J. Shea, Jr., Becker, and Poliakoff, PA, 630 South Orange Avenue, Suite 300, Sarasota, Florida, and lists the Florida bar number. Interestingly, it was submitted August 26, 1999 by the Empire Corporation. That is going to be a big deal. Next, we go to the North Creek Construction Incorporated, filed July 16, 1999, listing a Wayne Rasmussen at 8830 South Tamiami Trail, Suite 110, Sarasota, Florida. Legacy Asset Management, LLC, 3333 Clark Road, Suite 200, Sarasota, Florida. And then again, Wayne Rasmussen, 8830 South Tamiami Trail, Sarasota, Florida. And then, down here, Managing Member, Rasmussen, Wayne, 3333 Clark Road, Suite 200, Sarasota, Florida. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know why they use the different addresses there. And then this is signed January 13th, 2002. Legacy Asset Management, LLC, from Renee McGraw, and this is from 2017, listing an address at Kansas City, Missouri. And Legacy Management, LLC, Asset Management, LLC, at Flolum, LLC, or, hold on. This is an application by former limited liability company for authorization to transact business in Florida. And it's listing that the alternate name of Legacy Asset Management, LLC is Flolum, LLC. And the registered agent, National Registry Agents Incorporated, 1200 South Pine Island Road, Plantation, Florida. VP and Assistant Secretary is the signature, which is a highly suspicious signature. But the name and title and capacity of the address of the person who has authority to manage is R. Venture West 2, LLC. The listing address at Kansas City, Missouri. And then KOCO Ventures, LLC, at Overland Park. Now those sound quite a lot like investment vehicles, so-called, which would have Form ADV filings. And then this listed Chuck Oglesby, member of KOCO Adventures, LLC. J&A Odyssey, LLC, Alaska, March 3rd, 2021, listing an address at Anchorage, Alaska, with a name Andrew Marlowe. And get the address, 5432 B Ridge Road, Suite 150, Sarasota, Florida. And if you don't remember, Andrew Marlowe is from our much earlier filings in relation to that particular entity, Roger Shea. Now, Anchorage Realty, Sarasota, LLC, lists an address of 3333 Clark Road, Sarasota, Florida. I think the pattern's becoming particularly obvious here. Deepwater Investments, LLC, lists an address of 7590 Albert Tallinghast Drive, Sarasota, Florida, with a Gene Marlowe. One has to wonder if any of this stuff is even true. But I'm sure there's, I know, and we see the impact and reality of this stuff. Now, I believe we move on to a new one. Irving Amron. This from the 22nd of October 1964 lists a subject responded to the AE Explore ad. Undersigned's Philadelphia hotel room. Undersigned used the Paul Peters alias and DoD cover. Subject of Jewish descent. Born 1917 in the USA, Philip Amromim. 1905, approximately 15, or came to the United States in 1905 at approximately the age of 15, allegedly. All subjects' fathers, brothers, except for Max, are Birches by occupation. Max graduated from CC, New York. Structural engineer, 43rd Street, and called Amron Associates. Also of Jewish descent, subject's mother. Came to the USA in 1911 or 1913. Cohen is presently retired and living in Florida. Ruth married Max Amron. Hyman Horlick arrived in the USA only in 1922. Started a liquor store in Babin, something, I can't read that, New Jersey. Presently living in Florida. One brother is still living in the USSR. So these are cover stories for probably somebody, I don't know. But as usual, we find evidence of the CIA being behind the inculcation of the Jewish victimization title for social credit. So anybody of quote-unquote Jewish descent is protected, and obviously that detracts from the fact that Judaism is supposed to be a belief system that is adopted versus the so-called ethnic Jew concept. Now we see this replicated, the protection of certain classes of people through a social credit system, and lo and behold, the CIA is behind that. Now the biggest deal behind this, of course, is that when they establish that cover identity, if you start looking into it, then you can be accused of being quote-unquote anti-Semitic or a Nazi. Change jobs frequently, farm to a shoe factory, Jewish cooperative organization, formed 1931, USA for the USSR, worked as agronomist, graduated from National Farm School in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. This stuff's all over the place. Returned to the USA in 1933, reason for severe ill health, actually only headache, severe headache. Retained U.S. citizenship. Did not like life in the USSR. Sister insisted. Only a brief stay in the USA. 1933 again returned to the USSR. No problems obtaining authorization. Noah London, construction engineer, construction industry, 1933 to 1936. Komsomolsk, panel board construction outfit. Paris Com as a shoemaker. Blah blah blah. So this lists off a whole bunch of different interesting details which could relate, such as Mina Moiseyeva, a bookkeeper by profession. So all of these things will relate to business filings. And the list of information as far as this document goes on. But in the interest of brevity, we will simply move on to the business filings and gloss over this particular CIA document and all the connecting information there. Amron Professional Services Incorporated, incorporated in the state of Texas, and the name it will use in Missouri is Amron Professional Services, dropping the incorporated. Listing a Norma Valverde. Now Amron, Alpha Mike Romeo Oscar November, is Norma, spelled backwards. Norma being November, Oscar Romeo, Mike Alpha. Norma Valverde, Vice President. This document was signed May 28th, 2009. Amron's Fold and Go lists a Norma Miller out of Fenton, Missouri, and this dated January 26, 2005. Then we have Amron Diversified Sewing with a Norma Jean Rosenbaum out of St. Louis, Missouri. This document filed March 2nd, 1990. I think we see the suspicious pattern here. Next we have Norma E. Denke, that's Daehnke, Wentzville, Missouri, for the registration of the fictitious name Amron. Go figure. This filing is from Kansas for Amron Cable TV Incorporated. Filed on the 4th day of February 1987 by a Norma Lee Coble. Next, from September 11, 2012, we have Amron Dasimo Corporation, filed by Norma Consegra out of Miami, Florida. Now, this document was filed 6th of June 2006 for Amron International Diving Supply Incorporated with an address of 1380 Aspen Way, Vista, California, and this filing is in Florida. Date of incorporation is June 11th, 1979. FEI number 95 or 96, I believe it's 95-3381309. Distributor of diving and tactical equipment. NRAI Services, Weston, Florida, for the registered agent. And this is signed on February or March 2nd, 2006. Amron International Diving Supply Incorporated. Jill Roach, 1380 Aspen Way, Vista, California. Phone number 760-208-6540. I always thought that the area code for California started with a 9, but this starts with a 7. Dated 2006. Next we have director Norma Oakwig, and that's for the same filing. Listing Norma Oakwig's address at 1380 Aspen Way, Vista, California. Go figure. In continuation, we have Amron Property Management LLC with the registered agent of Norma Saab, SAAB, Sierra Alpha Alpha Bravo. Norma, again, whichever way you see it, Amron is Norma spelled backwards or Norma is Amron spelled backwards. Amron Paralegal Services LLC. Registered agent is a Norma D. Janice, or Jenis, Jenes, however you want to say that. Person probably doesn't exist. Now, we have this filing, Amron's Extra Pair of Hands LLC, which to me sounds like a creepy name, with the Agents and Corporations Incorporated out of Naples, Florida as the registered agent. But this was filed on August 6, 2010 by David Williams Law Firm, PA, listing a Norma J. Robinson. So as per usual, many attorneys behind this phony system of incorporating under CIA cover stories so they can shut anybody down who wants to go after this extensive amount of fraud and treason. Amron Trucking Incorporated lists of Paul E. Clayton, January 27, 1989, listing a Norma J. Clayton. Then we have Amron Company with Norcorp Industries Incorporated and a Norman Gurevitz. That's a hard name to say there. It's Gurevitz at 5255 Copper Tree Lane, Columbus, Ohio. And this filing was from February 7th, 1984. Then we have the Corporation Amron Lanes Incorporated, September 9th of September 1998, listing a Norma diver. The Norma Foundation is a corporation which filed for an amendment to change the name to the Amron Foundation, April 17th, 2000, in the state of Missouri. Now, the Amron Foundation in the state of Missouri changed its name to the Norma Foundation on the 25th day of April 2000. Now we have the First United Methodist Church Foundation, dated November 10th, 1998, listing a David Donnelly at 2700 Eagle Ridge Road, Jefferson City, Missouri. The reason for that name to be important is because of David M. Donnelly, I did a video on only recently, and the suspicious association with business filings there. And here we've got the addressograph multigraph employees listing the name of said corporation shall be Amron Credit Union, 22nd day of February 1982. Then we have Amron Credit Union Incorporated, resolution by the Board of Directors of the Cleveland Northeast Ohio Educational Credit Union Incorporated, whereas the Board of Directors of the credit union, in the opinion of that this credit union should merge with Amron Credit Union Incorporated, and this dated 1988 and 1986, it believes. Yes, it is 1986, but one of the signatures from 1988, so that's interesting why there's the discrepancy in years there. I gotta organize my papers here a little bit better. Now for the financials, there's some interesting things that pop out here. Continuing credit union, well, the merging credit union, Amron Credit Union, lists under accounts receivable 0, under land 0, and under building 0. Under liabilities and equity, the notes payable for the continuing credit union, Cleveland Northeast Ohio Educational Credit Union, is notes payable 0. For the Amron Credit Union, 0. And combined, of course, is 0. And then under contingency and other for the Amron Credit Union is listed at 0. This from 1986. In the state of Missouri, from February 24th, 2000, Amron Liquors lists under name of owners individual corporate New World Investments Incorporated. And New World Investment Incorporated lists the Jacob Gatewood and the signature from January 22nd, 2008. So the big deal here is that New World Investments, this is the appointment of the statutory agent, Jacob Gatewood, if that is even true. Now, Amron Liquors from August 4th, 1999 in Missouri lists an Abshin Company as the owner from Florissant, Missouri. And then Amron Construction, December 7th, 2004, lists a Larry J. Happany Jr. at 2719 Lancaster Kirkersville Road, Lancaster, Fairfield, Ohio. So, 2719 Lancaster Kirkersville Road, Northwest, Lancaster, Ohio, 43130, lists a Christy Happany as the address owner. And on the listing of sales, we've got Christy Happany bought the property from a Jennifer L. Moch, Motsch, for $49,000. And Jennifer L. Moch bought the property for $80,000 from a Jeffrey K. Jones. And so the first purchase was 1998, second 2004. Major discrepancy in the purchase price there. And originally, Jones Jeffrey K. bought the property from a Donald L. Waugh, W-A-U-G-H, 1993 for $90,000. So in 93 it sold for $90,000. In 98 it sold for $80,000. In 2004 it sold for $490,000. Those numbers don't add up. And then if we look up business filings for a Donald Waugh, we find he's an agent for something called the Ave Maria Works of Mercy, Incorporated, in North Carolina. Now the CMC Financial Incorporated lists a address at 538 Wheeling Road, Lancaster, Fairfield, or Lancaster, to operate an insurance brokerage and employee benefit service company within Ohio. This is an insurance brokerage agency. List or dated March 27, 2001, a Christy A. Happany. Now Larry J. Happany Jr. et al. Lists the property address at 2719 Lancaster Kirkersville Road, Lancaster, Ohio, 43130. This dated October 10th, 2007 for Gigall LLC, which lists a Christy Happany at 155 East Columbus Street, Suite 200, Pickerington, Ohio. Then we have Trio TV and Appliance Incorporated with Jeffrey K. Jones, one of the sellers and purchasers there of that Lancaster Kirkersville Road address, 125 West Mulberry Street, to succeed as agent William C. Dagger. Again, Jeffrey K. Jones. And then there's a signature here, R. Mark Bibler, from June 26, 1998, Dagger, Johnston, Miller, Ogilvy, and Hampson LLP, attorneys at law, 144 East Main Street, P.O. Box 667, Lancaster, Ohio. And here we have a Norman J. Ogilvy Jr. So there the listing comes full circle, and also a J. Hampson. I always find it interesting, and I find it suspicious when they only put an initial for the first name. Next, we have a business filing. Central Ohio Investment Services, 1995. Jeffrey K. Jones, 125 West Mulberry Street, Lancaster, Ohio. Sale of securities as an independent registered representative. S&J Enterprises, LLC, 125 West Mulberry Street. This from November 5th, 2001. It lists a Jeffrey K. Jones, president of Joe B. Jr. Incorporated, and a Lou Ann Weisenstein, president of Slater's Incorporated, which suspiciously went out of business recently. Slater's did. Now, when we look at some of the other addresses on that particular road, we look at 2544 Lancaster Kirkersville Road, Northwest, Carroll, Ohio, 43112. David Covell is listed as the alleged property owner. Now the sale dates, we look at the sale dates and we see that David Covell bought the property from a Jonathan A. Brill for no money, $0, on October 22nd, 2015, with a transfer date of November 12th, 2015. And then the Jonathan A. Brill bought the property from a Julia F. Farmer for $90,000 on August 28th, 2014. And then Julia F. Farmer bought the property for no money, $0, from Gary G. Farmer on November 8th, 2012. That's as far as the property sale listings go. Now, a Merit Personnel trade name is registered by a G. Carroll Goodman Covell at 21403 Chagrin Boulevard, Cleveland, Ohio, and it is an employment service. Dated 1987. Brown Enterprises Incorporated lists a Julia Farmer and a Norma L. Brown, dated 1988, with Julia Farmer and Gary Farmer. Their address listed, first of all, the Helen I. Brown is listed at 920 Lanrico Boulevard, Lancaster. The Norma L. Brown is listed at 924 Valley View Drive, Lancaster. Julia Farmer listed at 753 Shadle Drive, Northwest, and Gary Farmer at the same address. Norma L. Brown is listed as the secretary and Julia Farmer as the treasurer. Farmer Brown's, this dated 1977, lists 505 West Fair Avenue, Lancaster, Ohio, since 1962, and Julia Farmer is the signature as secretary. Lancaster Poultry Incorporated lists 753 Shadle Drive, Lancaster, Ohio, a Julia Farmer, and to succeed Merritt H. Brown. Brown Enterprises Incorporated lists a Julia Farmer from 1984, 505 West Fair Avenue, and to succeed the former agent of James E. Brown. And interestingly enough, the signature is M.H. Brown, President. That's not suspicious at all. I'm being sarcastic, of course it is. Then we have James E. Brown with a listing address of Route Number 1, Lancaster, Ohio, Fairfield County. Listing a Brown Enterprises Incorporated, Jenna Nell Ruff, Julia Farmer, and James E. Brown. And this is from 1966. Pretty odd, isn't it? Now we look at the address 2548 Lancaster Kirkersville Road, Northwest Carroll, Ohio 43112, with a Jonathan A. Brill. Now the sales, of which there are two, are both for $0. It's between the same people, both sales. Yarmesh Daniel A. Trustee. And the first sell date from Brill Jonathan and Heather S. to Daniel A. Yarmesh, trustee, was sell date of July 22nd, 2015, transfer date of November 12th, 2015. And then Daniel A. Yarmesh, trustee, sold the property for $0 to Jonathan A. Brill. Sell date of November 10th, 2015, transfer date of November 12th, 2015. So that's interesting. Jonathan Brill, doing business as Tow My Rig, tow truck operations, listing the address of 2548 Lancaster Kirkersville Road, Lancaster, Ohio. Joseph C. Heron et al. Interesting listing et al. As being the owner of record for the trade name of Fairfield Limousine, where right title interest said mark is transferred to John Brill, 119 and a half Wiley Avenue, Lancaster, Ohio. The Bike Shop of Lancaster, Ohio, name of registrant John Brill. This is from October 24th, 2024, Sporting Goods and Sales Service at 300 North Columbus Street, Lancaster, Ohio. Then we have 759 Shadle Drive, Mobile Truck and Trailer Repair, John Brill, 2009, November 2nd. Now we have Avon Police Benevolent Society Incorporated from 1983, attorney Douglas Brill at 228 Miller Road. Northern Ohio Private Police Academy Incorporated lists a Douglas M. Brill at 33682 Walker Road, Avon Lake, and this from 1983. Eclipse is a trade name being registered by a J. Christopher Brill at 5652 Pleasant View Drive, Milford, Ohio. J. Christopher Brill is listed as a lead guitarist, and this from 1991, June 1st. One Note Initiative as a J. Luke Brill at 1421 East 53rd Road Street. It does say that. East 53rd Road Street, or E53RDST, Cleveland. Brill Investors Limited Partnership, 3268 East Lower Springboro Road, Waynesville, Ohio, lists a J. Michael Brill and a Jacqueline S. Brill. So here we have more of the pattern unfolding with this J. Musicality LLC, that's Muzikality, lists a J. Luke Brill. Master Energy Corporation lists a James B. Brill, 63131 Poplar Road, Cambridge, Ohio, February 25th, 1984. Now, Larry E. Wolf is listed as owning the address of 2801 Lancaster Kirkersville Road, Lancaster, Ohio, 43130. Now, there are two sales, of which both are for $0, done between John Lewis Newman and Larry E. Wolf. The two sales are from 1992 and 2008. Eurogroup Property Management LLC. Purpose of this organization shall to be provide for economic development of its members and to render economic assistance where needed. John Newman, 21380 Lorraine Avenue, Suite 105. John Newman, 1405 Ogont Street, Sandusky, Ohio, from 1977. Maith's Associates Incorporated. J&X LLC from 2009. To buy, sell, and own real estate, promissory notes, and mortgages, and for any purpose or purposes, blah, blah, blah. John Newman, 18th Street, Peebles, Ohio. Hartville Dodge Insurance Agency Incorporated, 828 Locust Drive, Talmadge, Ohio. From 1988, lists a Larry Wolf. Hartville Dodge Incorporated, formerly Ed Twiggs Hartville Dodge Incorporated, from 1988. Ed Twiggs, Hartville Dodge Incorporated, Larry Wolf, full address of the agent, 828 Locust Drive, Talmadge, Ohio, from 1987. Next we have John M. Sigmund of 2807 Lancaster Kirkersville Road, Northwest. And here we get to some interesting sale numbers. No transfer dates, except for one. Sell date, April 19th, 2013. A Fauble, Clarabelle, a Fauble, sold to 738 North Broad Street, LLC for $76,000. Then, August 14th, 2013, 738 North Broad Street, LLC, sold the property to Larry E. Wolf for $25,000. Larry E. Wolf sold the property to a Sean E. Ruff for $0, December 24th, 2014, and then Sean E. Ruff sold the property for $775,000 to John M. Sigmund, S-I-G-M-O-N. APW Columbus, Ohio Area Local Building Corporation lists a Jennifer Sigmund at 610 Lancaster Avenue, Reynoldsburg, Ohio. This document filed in 2018. This document filed in 2015 lists a APW Columbus, Ohio Area Local Building Corporation, the APW/Cole BLDG Corp., Steve Charles, 1820 Northwest Boulevard, Columbus, Ohio, 43212. APW Columbus, Ohio Area Local Building Corporation appoints Real Assist Incorporated at 669 East Wilson Bridge Road. Now, Certificate of Amendment, MEB Holding and Trading Company, from 1986. The name of the corporation is Real Assist Incorporated, 69 East Wilson Bridge Road, Worthington, Franklin County, Ohio. And this is dated 1990. And the articles of incorporation were filed in 1986. That's a name change for you. Now, Sean Ruff is an agent for a Georgia company called Green Lights Pro Solutions. The reason why that's important is because of Operation Green Light being conducted against veterans. Essentiel Beauty, or Essentiel, ESSENTIELLE, BEAUT ? Supply LLC. Filing date of June 30th, 2020 lists a James Dorsey and a Jenna Ruff out of Atlanta, Georgia. Then Expense Wire Services listing a James Dorsey, lists 3740 Market Street, Youngstown, Ohio. And the date has been scratched out. I cannot read that date. But the James Dorsey signature is from 2008. Absolute Zero Enterprises LLC lists a James Dorsey. Valor Security Systems is a name registered by Absolute Zero Enterprises LLC in 2017 for security system monitoring out of 6281 Ridgeview Boulevard, North Ridgeville, Ohio. And Valor Security Systems is an important name because of Valor Retreat and all the various other Valor-related filings that I did work on. Real Assist Pro LLC from 2018, virtual assistance for real estate professionals. Of course, that has to do with what we all are aware of with land grab nonsense. Now we come to another filing from the CIA, from the filings of under JFK. This lists airports: Montreal, Kastrup Airport. This lists a certain block. Dutch Passport Control Officer visited USR 1957, World Youth Festival, visa for Russia, Soviet Embassy in The Hague, not permitted to obtain a new valid passport. Wife had to support the family on her salary of $65 a week. These are all indicators within the cover identity which relates to business filings. And the name here, the operative word, is block. Laws were made there by 3 or 4 families and clique around Eisenhower. So basically this is all to set up the ability to besmirch the name of any who talk about a control cabal structure. And this lists a parrot. The AFL-CIO Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union. It says Morris Bloch was born on the 3rd of March, 1930. And had a small pen with World Youth Festival of Students from Moscow, 1957. So Morris Bloch is the operative name here, coming out of the Netherlands, and there's a whole bunch of other highly suspect information on this document. Also listing a Stanley Faulkner, the Winberg Clothing Company, and many other things, and it says that Bloch had $63 with him. Yet earlier in this document, it stated that his wife had to support the family on her salary of $65 a week, and he had $63 on him. Those numbers are pretty interesting there. Also lists a Marion E. Linda, 10th February, 1959. So Empire Realty Incorporated filed September 21st, 1974, lists a Morris Bloch at 2720 Pine Island Road, number 107, Sunrise, Florida, 33322. Empire Realty Funding Incorporated lists an address, and this filings from 1983, 2300 Main Place Tower, New York, Buffalo, New York. Under purposes, loans and participation in loans secured by residential real estate or liens on manufactured homes and all types of mortgages. Lists the CT Corporation System, associated with Corporation Trust Company, December 9th, 1983. Empire Realty Funding Incorporated, Gene Brunson Services Representative. Counsel Newt, Moot, and Sprague, 2300 Main Place Tower, Buffalo, New York. Jeffrey Fletter, Attorney, and Empire Realty Company. Certificate of Dissolution, Empire Realty Company, January 1953, Columbus, Franklin County, Ohio. Let's say John F. Heavens and Ellen R. Heavens and Thomas P. Kerr at 7911 Perry Road, Delaware, Ohio, and 145 North High Street, Columbus, Ohio. Also listed Grant S. Richards at 180 East Broad Street, 4th floor, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. This is for Empire Realty Company out of Springfield, Ohio, dated 1937. And then, registration of fictitious name, Kansas City Empire Realty Company, 1953. Empire Realty Company, St. Louis 15, Missouri, 1963. Empire Realty Incorporated, 5223 Grandin Way Court, Dublin, Ohio. Real estate services including brokerage and management, and this is from 1998. Donald E. Maxwell, LLC, attorney at law. 12120 State Line Road, number 171, Leawood, Kansas. Filing in Missouri. A bulk resignation. Please notify Daryl Gilmore at 8414 Hallett, Lenexa, Kansas 66215 of my resignation as registered agent for the following companies: Empire Title Company, LLC, Legacy Financial Solutions, LLC, Empire Solutions, Empire Residential Development, Empire Connections, Empire Capital Holdings, Empire Production Group, Legacy Holdings, Empire Realty Group, Daryl Gilmore, LLC, and Larry Jackson, LLC. And of course, the Legacy name is something that we covered recently in this chain of filings. Empire Realty Incorporated is organized under the laws of California. In Missouri, we'll use the name Empire Realty Holdings Incorporated. This is from 2017. Address listed: Registered Agents Incorporated, 117 South Lexington Street, STE 100, Harrisonville, Missouri, and the principal place of business, 703 North Rowan Street, Anaheim, California. And lists as President, Secretary, Treasurer, and Director Eddie Villa Lobos. And the electronic signature is from October 7th, 2024. The email, interestingly enough, is a Evil Law Lobos at myusloan.com. Empire Realty Group, LLC, jurisdiction of formation, Nevada. Date, February 22nd, 2022, and this is Ohio. Empire Realty Group, LLC, Ishmael Shakhamandarov, 609 Troy Street, Dayton. And of course, formed in Nevada. Interesting. Apoyo Realty LLC lists a Rodriguez Empire Realty LLC as for a name change. Stan Faulkner LLC, that name again on that CIA document about Morris Block. This is from November 14th, 2023. Stanley M. Faulkner, 8705 Autumn Green Drive, Jacksonville, Florida. Now, Empire Realty Group is the officer for Coastal Florida Management, LLC, Tirza Lissack, LLC, that's TIRZAH Tetusco Holdings, LLC, Sedit Investments, LLC, Initium Bioanalytics, LLC, Agritech Holdings, LLC, Inception Ocean, LLC, and Outlaw Incorporated 3, LLC. All these names are important. Ohio filing listing no purpose for Beauty by Seta, LLC, dated 2019. Then we have Unforgettable Adventures by Maria Seda, LLC. And this is 2024. To help those with travel have an unforgettable adventure. And as we know, travel agencies are a particularly interesting cover for certain elements in clandestine activities. July 28, 2014, Tirza Enterprises. Ownership of residential property and the purchase and or resale of the same. And this is Tirza Thompson LLC from June 24th, 2020, with an interesting return receipt listing. 1995 is the name, at 4590 US Route 50, Fayetteville, Ohio, for Tirza Thompson. That's odd. Next we have a Dylan Johnson, 2851 Keystone Circle, Colorado Springs, Colorado, for Initium Properties LLC, and this dated January 16th, 2023. Real Estate Investment Group is the purpose. That's it. That's what it says in the purpose. Real Estate Investment Group. Initium Properties LLC, Registered Agent Incorp Services Incorporated. And this lists an Isabel Burgos on behalf of Incorp Services Incorporated. Initium Novum LLC, current agent CT Corporation System, name and address of new agent Taft Service Solutions Corporation. This lists by Tracy A. Puthoff, Esquire, as Assistant Secretary of Taft Service Solutions Corporation. Initium Novum Corp. Novum, assumed name of Novum Designs of Pennsylvania. Then we have Initium Novum LLC, the CT Corporation System, Diane Stout, Assistant Secretary. Initium Legal Services LLC, temporary and permanent legal staffing to law firms is the purpose to provide. Initium Legal Partners LLC is the authorized member, manager, or representative, and the agent for Initium Legal Services LLC. Now we have Initium Holdings LLC from April 1st, 2024. Return address Zen Business Incorporated, 5511 Park Crest Drive, Suite 103, Austin, Texas 78731. Investing in real estate and stock opportunities, listed purpose. Initium Construction LLC, January 1st or January 17th, 2025. Lifestyle Investment Holdings is the name of the return address at 1950 East 101 Street, Cleveland, Ohio. And this just lists that it's in a construction company. Initium Construction LLC as an agent of Infinite Consulting Company LLC. Interesting name there, Infinite Consulting. Initium LLC is a name being registered in Ohio in the year 2006, January 23rd, by the Brand Alliance LLC. Next we have Initium BI LLC and an address listed 6545 Market Avenue North, Suite 100, North Canton, Ohio. That's important for the last video I did about filings in North Canton. Then we have Initium Advertising is a registered, name being registered in 1988 by Sequentia Incorporated. Manufacture, distribution, and sale of vinyl plastic reinforced panels and sidings. 1987, listing a Robert N. Gudbranson, or Gudbranson, Gudbranson. Nicola Gudbranson and Cooper, lists a Robert N. Goodbranson, a John D. Sayer, and a Werner D. Mueller, or Mueller. Those names are very important. Sequentia International Incorporated, Robert N. Goodbranson. Also lists a Richard A. Cooper. This is from 1982. Now the sign page for Nicola, Goodbranson, Mueller, and Cooper lists Richard A. Cooper and Werner D. Mueller and Robert N. Goodbranson. This from 2011, CFD Service Company Incorporated is the return address. Attention, Joan Maskell, 1300 East 9th Street, Cleveland, Ohio. This is for Sequentia LLC, or Sequentia. And the undersigned, this is a change of name from MedBed Connect LLC, and this is from 2010. Now, we have Sequentia Incorporated. This filing lists the CT Corporation System, 120 South Central Avenue, Clayton, Missouri, and Crane Company, Stamford, Connecticut. This is from 2002. Now, all of the treasurers, secretaries, various officers, and directors are all listed with first and middle initials, and then last name, with addresses at alternating between the different people at 101st Stamford Place, Stamford, Connecticut, 23525 West Eames Street, Channahon, Illinois, and only those two addresses are spaced out among the different officers and directors, so it would look at first glance like they live at different addresses. State of Kansas, we have Sequentia Incorporated, organized in Ohio, and this document filings from May 1st, 1997. Principal office address 15900 Fultz Industrial Parkway, Strongsville, Ohio. CT Corporation Company, or The Corporation Company Incorporated, 515 South Kansas Avenue, Topeka. Corporation Company Incorporated, wholesales of reinforced fiberglass panels. This is Sequentia Incorporated. And interestingly enough, with the Robert N. Goodbranson secretary, we again have the asset sheet with blanked out spaces, as though something has been redacted. Now, under the officers listing for Sequentia Incorporated, we have Richard N. Goodbranson, secretary, at 2750 Terminal Tower, Cleveland, Ohio, and James B. Carlson, assistant secretary, Mayor Brown and Platt, 787 7th Avenue, 23rd floor, New York, New York. Jeffrey L. Kenner, Mark Deutsch, and John M. Baldwin shared the same address, 437 Madison Avenue Street, or Suite 2001, New York, New York. Oh, and it's Sequentia Incorporated from Ohio, if you forgot. Okay, Sequentia Incorporated, 1995, April 25th. Lists the principal place of business at 21819 Royalton Road, P.O. Box 380530, Strongsville, Ohio. CT Corporation System, 1200 South Pine Island Road, Plantation, Florida. And Robert Ed Goodbranson, 2750 Terminal Tower, Cleveland, Ohio. But this was filed by an Edwin C. Billings on April 21st, 1995, in Florida. Sequentia Incorporated, Ohio appointment of agent, Richard A. Cooper, 1982. This is signed by Robert N. Goodbranson. Now, Nicola, Marsh, Goodbranson, and Mueller, attorneys and counselors, 1145 Terminal Tower, Cleveland, Ohio. This lists a Robert N. Goodbranson, Werner D. Mueller, and Richard A. Cooper. And this is signed by Richard A. Cooper. Now, 2015, October 23rd, Sequentia Corporation, under laws and jurisdiction of Delaware, date of incorporation 2012, August 10th. Listing and address in Cleveland, Sequentia provides advisory and technology solutions that streamline the operations of healthcare providers, thereby improving quality and decreasing cost. This lists a Todd A. Schrader, Esquire, as the agent. Sequential Biodiesel LLC, formed in Oregon. This is January 1st, 2005. Corporation Company Incorporated, 112 Southwest 7th Street, 3C, Suite 3C, Topeka, Kansas. Purchase of biodiesel from supplier John Greer. And then in a merger filing, Sequentia Acquisition Corp. is merging with Sequentia Incorporated, and then the filings are signed by Assistant Secretary and Chairman of the Board. You have James B. Carlson and John F. Doherty, and this is December 12th, 1995. Articles of Incorporation for Sequentia Acquisition Corp. This is from 1995. Principal Office 21819, Royalton Road, Strongsville, Ohio. Listing a Shant H. Shalian, Mayor Brown and Platt, 1675 Broadway, New York, New York. Sequentia Acquisition Corp. CT Corporation System, 815 Superior Avenue Northeast. That's important because that is the very address for the alleged Federal Immigration Court. And then this is from September 14th, 1995. CT Corp. And this lists a Special Assistant Secretary. Don't think I've ever heard of that as a title. Now, Morris Block is listed as a president of Friends of the Concord Quartet, Vermont domestic nonprofit, and a member of Block Investments LLC, Arizona domestic. None of the other elements of Morris Block are available. We have Block Investments LLC from 2018, listing an address of 5332 Cuesta Tierra Drive, Phoenix, Arizona. Now, Friends of the Concord Quartet, Vermont domestic nonprofit corporation, filed February 17th, 1982, lists a Morris Block at 111 Bank Street, Burlington, Vermont, 05401. Product services music. Also lists a John Graney and a Reese Prosser. So with Reese Prosser, we have an S. Reese Prosser as the owner of Reinhardt Motor Company, Pennsylvania. Filing date January 13th, 1947. Principal address unknown, Huntingdon, PA-0. And then for John Graney, with an address listed of School Street, Woburn, Massachusetts, we have him listed as the treasurer for Helpers of God's Precious Infants Incorporated. Sounds like a child trafficking front. Massachusetts nonprofit, formed October 7th, 1994. Listed address, Our Lady of Perpetual Basilica, 1545 Tremont Street, Roxbury, Massachusetts. Now, Electronic Experts of Florida, this filing from 1995, September 15th, lists Electronic Experts of Florida Incorporated, 6614 Old Winter Garden Road, Orlando, Florida. Listing a John Philip Graney, same address. From 1997, Interspeed Incorporated at 995 State Route 434 North, Suite 202, Altamonte Springs, Florida. 32714 lists a John Graney at 203 Hurst Court, Lake Mary, Florida. Electronic Experts of Boca Raton Incorporated, 995 State Route or State Road, 434 Suite 202, Altamonte Springs, Florida. And again, John Graney, this time listing the same address of 995 State Road, 434 Suite 202, Altamonte Springs, Florida. Then we have Electronics by Design Incorporated. This is from 2004, 1504 Bay Road, number 3205, Miami Beach, Florida. John Graney at the same address as that filing. Now we have IRM Consulting Group Incorporated, Software Consulting. John Graney, President, at 10 Beachside Drive, Vero Beach, Florida. Now we have BassStationLive.com Incorporated, 1330 West Avenue, 2313 Miami Beach, Florida. Live webcasting of music and video, subscription-based. Let's say John P. Graney, same address, and also Vice President Cedric DePasquale, 141 Northeast 3rd Avenue, Suite 902, Miami, Florida. Now we have electronicdesigns.com Incorporated, or Inc. at 1330 West Avenue, 2313 Miami Beach, Florida, same address. Sales and installations of electronic home automation devices and video and audio. John P. Graney, 1330 West Avenue, Unit 2313, Miami Beach, Florida. The 305 Home Entertainment Corporation. This is from 2002. 400 Alton Road, 2207, Miami, Florida. John P. Graney, 400 Alton Road, number 2207, Miami, Florida. And this says Unit 2207. Electronic Designs LLC from 2014. John Graney, 400 Alton Road, 407, Miami Beach, Florida. So there's a change there. Instead of Unit 207 or 2207, you now have Unit or Suite, my bad, 400 Alton Road, Suite 407, Miami Beach, Florida. 305 Design Management LLC, John Graney, 400 Alton Road, Unit 407, Miami Beach, Florida. Instead of Suite, now it's Unit. Also listing a James Jones at 15505 Miami Lakeway, North Apartment 205, Miami Lakes, Florida. Now from 2017, we have Electronic Design LLC, John P. Graney, 400 Alton Road, and I'm going to say 407, but at this point I don't know if it's Suite, Unit, Number, Road, whatever, Miami Beach, Florida. And now it lists as VP Santiago Ruiz, 90 Southwest 3rd Road Street, Miami, Florida. Now, back to another CIA filing. This one is for a Mr. Clayton Thomas E. Davis, dated 27th of December 1951. This is a cover. The listed Thomas Edgar Davis, 1596 Neal Avenue, Columbus, Ohio, acting head of research at OSU Research Foundation. And this is a filing from 1987. Listing Ohio State Research Foundation, American Scandinavian Foundation in New York, financial sponsor. Dr. Owens lists Thomas E. Davis, mapping and charting laboratory of the foundation, Connection with the CIA is not publicly known. And here's some more on that particular document. Thomas Edgar Davis, I listed the address. Date of birth will be forwarded as soon as received. Department of the Army, Thomas Edgar blank, 1949, I believe that's what that is. That blank, Thomas Edgar, granted clearance 1947, yeah. U.S. Atomic Energy Commission, 18 January 1949, Cincinnati, Ohio, 12 January 1949, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. FBI conducted investigations, allegedly. Subject presently resides at 2596 Neal Avenue and not at 1596. According to the records of the Registrar's Office, Ohio State University, subject was born in Wellston, Ohio during January 1903. So they're creating a fictitious person to act as cover for their phony business and laundering and whatnot. Okay, and this is all bogus backstory listing different female names by the name of the husband, a common way to obfuscate things. But here it lists a Norman Ehrmantraut, manager, Alders Garage, Hilliard, Ohio, as an alleged employer. And police records failed to reveal any information, and material should be returned to the writer, sealed envelope marked eyes only, listing a Robert H. Cunningham. Now, that name, Thomas E. Davis. Thomas E. Davis, attorney at law. This is a filing from March 22nd, 2021. Thomas E. Davis, 628 West Market Street, Akron, Ohio. A law practice. Interesting. Voorhees, Sater, Seymour and Pease, LLP, Michelle Goodwin Corporation, Paralegal, 52 East Gay Street, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. Filing October 25th, 2024, the Ohio State University Research Foundation, Richard Bradbury, agent, and name and address of new agent, Kendra C. Bowman. Docu-signed by Kendra C. Bowman. I think we all know what that means. Also docu-signed by a Michelle Papadakis and a Peter Moeller. And here's the DocuSign envelope ID. If you can see that. Again, the Voorhees, Sater, Seymour and Pease, LLP, Michelle Goodwin, same address. Ohio State University Research Foundation. October 25th, 2024. This one is a reinstatement. DocuSign Michael Papadakis and Peter Moeller. I guess it was Michael before, not Michelle. Now, this filing from 2017, March 22nd, Ohio State University Research Foundation, Certificate of Continued Existence, and return address, Ohio State Research Foundation, University Research Foundation, 1960 Caney Road, Columbus, Ohio, 43210. Date of incorporation, November 3rd, 1936. This document from 2012, listing same return address, has a Robert E. White being the current agent and new agent Richard Bradbury at that same address, 1960 Caney Road. Now, the Ohio State University return address of 901 Woody Hayes Drive, Blankenship Hall, room 2010, Columbus, Ohio 43210. This document, domestic agent appointment from 2007, lists a new agent of Robert E. White and current agent of Gilda D.L. Garton. That's Jilda Diehlgarton. And I didn't have the time to actually look into the implications of that particular name, but I'm sure just like all of these, it has spin-offs and whatnot. The Ohio University Research Foundation, 1314 Kinnear Road, Columbus, Ohio. And this filing is from 1964, listing a Thomas E. Davis as agent, and address change from 1985 Tewksbury Road, Columbus, Ohio, to 4200 Dublin Road. Alfred B. Garrett, president and signatory. Statement of continued existence from 1964 lists the date of incorporation for the Ohio State University Research Foundation as November 3rd, 1936. Thomas E. Davis, address of agent 4200 Dublin Road, Columbus, Ohio. Signed Robert C. Stevenson, Executive Director, and Alfred B. Garrett, President. Now, Articles of Incorporation, the Ohio State University Research Foundation. Let's say Julius F. Stone, Charles F. Kettering, Charles F. Michael, and C.E. McQuigg, as well as a James F. Lincoln. This is the 2nd of November, 1936. Now, these listed names here have addresses in New York, Bucyrus, Cleveland, Dayton, and Columbus. Subsequent agent appointment for the Ohio State University Research Foundation. This is November 2nd, 1936. A S. Jacoby Curlbutt. I don't know what that name is. 309 Wahalia Road, Columbus. Thomas E. Davis, original appointment of agent for T. Davis & Son Incorporated, December 15th, 1987. Law offices Thomas P. Albu, Suite 300, 111 2nd Street Northwest, Canton, Ohio. Then, Metrophase Incorporated, listed Thomas E. Davis as agent from August 1990. And here we have Keating, Muthing, and Cleckhomp, attorneys at law, Cincinnati, Ohio, 1990. Some of the names here are Don R. Gardner, J. David Rosenberg, J. Neil Gardner, William A. Posey, Gail E. Glassmeyer, Lisa Ventersheimer Michel, that's a hard name to say, and John E. Gardner. And Lisa Wintersheimer Michel is the signer. Then we have Louisiana Process Services Incorporated. Principal place of business 12301 Coursey Boulevard, Box 86810, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. CT Corporation System, Plantation, Florida, blah, blah, blah. Now we have a Thomas E. Davis listed at the address of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Also a W.A. Brookshire, Houston, Texas. And Pam J. McKinley, also of Houston, Texas. And this filing is from 1983. Then we have a Davis 9 Data Consulting LLC, 1038 Perry Street, Columbus, Ohio. And this filing from March 29th, 2021, no purpose listed, and listing, of course, our friend and immortal agent of Thomas E. Davis. Go figure. Next, we have CRD International LC. They missed an L there. So it's limited company, I suppose. Or liability company. Not limited, just liability company. At 6001 Medici Court, Sarasota, Florida. We've seen other business filings at Sarasota, Florida. And here we've got a Thomas E. Davis at 1264 Drew Street, Lakeland, Florida. And this is from 2005. CRD International LC. Own, operate, and manage property, real, personal, and mixed of any kind or nature. At an interesting address of 2033 Main Street, Suite 600, Sarasota, Florida. This is from October 27, 1999. Listing a Troy H. Myers Jr. Esquire at the same address. And then a D. Gary Alvey at the 6001 Medici Court, Sarasota, Florida address. Now we have Copper Creek or Copperhead Creek Enterprises Incorporated, Thomas Davis, 302 North Main, Chautauqua, Kansas. And this is from March 26, 2023. Buckeye First Title LLC, Thomas E. Davis Esquire, 65 Parsons Avenue, Suite 202, Columbus, Ohio. Buckeye First Title LLC. Title Insurance Services and Title Services Title Company. This is from 2004. Then we have registration of trade name from 1964. Thomas E. Davis, name to be registered Boulevard Pizza. Prior registration of name Boulevard Pizza by virtue of assignment record and blah, blah, blah. So this is Thomas E. Davis. And then Joseph J. Creasy, owner of the trade name Boulevard Pizza. Consideration for sale of business known as Boulevard Pizza, blah, 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 to Thomas E. Davis, 1963. Alta Baseball Booster Club Incorporated from 2008, 1071 Strickland Road, Marianna, Florida. Corporate, spelled with two R's, Corrorporate. So corporate business purpose is to raise money for the Alta baseball team to buy uniforms, equipment, and assist on trips as needed. All monies will be acquired through fundraisers and go directly to the baseball team. Thomas E. Davis, 15011 Northwest New Landing Road, Alta, Florida.